So, today we're diving into this really profound idea from the theologian Rowan Williams. We're going to start with a big question. What if our whole modern understanding of what it means to be human is fundamentally broken? And what if the key to finding a deeper humanity lies in an ancient practice that, well, a lot of us have probably overlooked? Williams, and he's building on the work of thinkers like Olivier Clement, he kicks things off with this really provocative question. What if the way we think about ourselves, our purpose, our very identity is just fundamentally flawed? So one of the first symptoms of this broken view, it's this feeling of being rootless, kind of disconnected from the deep currents of history that actually made us who we are. And that rootlessness, it can lead to this sense of being timeless, but yeah, not in a good way. We can get trapped in what the philosopher Olivier Clement calls a banal present. Just think about the endless, mindless scroll on your phone. It's this constant stream of moments that don't connect to anything meaningful, no real past and no hopeful future. And the end result of all this? We're left feeling, well, just profoundly unfulfilled. It's like our deepest longings get shrunk down to these little surface-level needs. They can be filled for a second, kind of like a sugar rush, but they never, ever truly satisfy. It just leaves us in this constant state of wanting more. So when you put all these symptoms together, the rootlessness, the timelessness, the unfulfillment, it points to something much bigger, a real crisis of what it even means to be human. It's a kind of spiritual poverty that Williams argues comes from a really deep misunderstanding of who we actually are. Clement puts it really well. He says we're basically caught in this trap. On one hand, we deny that history even matters. And on the other, we have this fake nostalgia for some perfect, simple past that never even existed. Both of them cut us off from our real story. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the answer? Well, this is where Williams proposes something pretty unexpected. He looks to the ancient practice of liturgy to find a new, or maybe a rediscovered, vision for humanity. And he calls this idea liturgical humanism. Now, the core idea here is that our identity isn't something we just invent out of thin air. We are the sole authors of our own story. Instead, our humanity is actually formed in response to something or someone utterly beyond ourselves. Just look at the difference here. It's pretty stark. The modern view of a person is all about individual will, right? The goal is to create yourself. I make myself. But for the liturgical human, the whole focus shifts to response. The goal isn't self-creation, it's communion. And your identity isn't I make myself, it's I am spoken to. That is a huge, huge shift in perspective. So, okay, how does something like liturgy actually do this? How does it make us into this totally different kind of human? Williams says it's not just a ceremony, it's this incredibly powerful, formative process. All right, so Williams breaks this whole process down into 4 key movements that kind of shape us. First, we learn that we are spoken to. Second, we consciously learn to pass through time. Third, we are remade with the physical, material world. And fourth, we learn to remember everything, but in this profound new way. Let's dive into each one. Okay, first up, it's all about language. The words we use in liturgy, they're not just words we made up, they're an answer. They're prayers of adoration, of asking, of thanks, all spoken in response to a word that has already been spoken to us. We realize we are recipients before we're speakers. Next, the second movement completely reframes how we see time. Liturgy isn't just a thing you do, it's a journey. And it takes time because it's literally a passage from the world we know, a world totally limited by the horizon of death, into a whole new reality, one defined by inexhaustible life. Third, and this is so interesting, it remakes our entire relationship with the physical world. By taking simple things like bread and wine and making them a vehicle for this profound connection, liturgy teaches us that the physical world isn't just a resource for us to use up. It can actually bear the life of God, which transforms it from something to exploit into a way to have communion. And that brings us to the fourth movement, which is all about redefining memory. In liturgy, remembering isn't just about looking back. It's this active, powerful force that stretches to include not just the past and the present, but the ultimate future, what's called the parousia, this idea of a final, glorious, and transformative event that gives all of history its meaning. So what does that actually mean for a person? It means the liturgical human is just deeply rooted.
They are shaped by a real past that gives them grounding and context, but at the same time, they're constantly being pulled forward by the future that they hope for. They're living inside this huge story, not just a tiny, fleeting moment. Okay, so what does all this high-level talk mean for our day-to-day lives? How does it actually apply? Well, this vision of a liturgical human gives us a powerful new lens to look at and critique the culture all around us.
Well, when you start looking at our world through this lens, some of our most basic modern ideas, they start to look a lot like myths. It totally challenges the idea of the completely self-made person. It exposes the fiction that our actions don't have lasting consequences. It rejects any system that ranks people's worth based on their status or what they've achieved, and it gives us a really powerful way to critique any politics that treats people, or the planet itself, as disposable.
And all of this leads to one last, really profound shift in how we think. It completely redefines the ultimate goal of what it even means to be human. Williams shares this absolutely incredible quote from a Russian Christian woman who was living under the Soviet regime. When someone asked her if her faith made her happy, she said, "You're not in the church to be happy, but to be alive." Wow. It's not about some shallow sense of happiness or comfort. It's about a deeper, more resilient sense of being fully and truly alive. And that really leaves us with a big question to chew on. Thinking beyond just temporary happiness or that fleeting feeling of satisfaction, what are the things in your own life, the practices, the relationships, the moments of response that make you feel truly, deeply, and resiliently alive?